Lawrence's. That's Lawrence's Country of My Heart. That's on Weaver's Lane, looking back towards Eastwood, between Annesley and Eastwood. So you're right in Lawrence's Country of My Heart there. And that's a walk we did with the Annesley Old Church project, which we did from 2011 to 2014. So Felly Mill is just beyond, down the bottom there where the trees are, to give you some idea, and Eastwood beyond here, and they walk in Annesley's where they've come back from. And that shows you a bit more. That's Felly, the classic folks. You can see just the Underwood Church there in the distance. Oh, beautiful country. You can imagine where Lawrence got his themes for writing and that. It's still beautiful countryside in a deer park officially. Now, what we've used in the past, this is a walk I did, probably going back 15 years now. This is north of Eastwood. This is an old OS map here. Eastwood's sort of down this area in the bottom right left-hand corner. And this is, as I recall, I think this was what we call the Miners' Meander. So we actually, we walked up through to Moor Green Reservoir, which is here, up by the pit site at Moor Green there. Followed the green line where you can see there, up by the reservoir, up to Felly Mill in the top right-hand corner near there, back up Felly Mill Lane, back round through Underwood, and then we came back down the old Barber Walker Railway, through the Brinsley site, and then back up and finished at Durbin House, I think, as I recall at the time. And that's where I've, the yellow highlighting you can see in there, it indicates old shafts. These are the ones what Lawrence mentioned, but about his dad, the old shonky pits, as we used to call them, with the wind gyms. So these are all the shafts on the edge of the outcrop north of Eastwood here. And that one there's Moor Green Colliery, that's High Park Colliery, which was your later ones. So these are the type of heritage walks, what we've done over the years, showing people a map, go around, stop at various vantage points and tell them a little bit of the history, bit of the literary links and what have you. And that's how we've done it over the past. So there's one we did 2010. So that was a walk through Lawrence's mining country. Again, similar to the one I've just showed you, where we started up at, included Durbin House. Again, we included the Brinsley site, that was here, Aunt Polly's cottage, Cedar Widdering and Mrs. Oldroyd and the old chrysanthemums. And then via the old mineral rail and up here, Willywood, Connie Farm, so up to Underwood again. Picnic stop at Brinsley Headstocks, duration 4.5 miles. So again, it's very similar to one we did, and that's where Jeff, one of the local, Jeff Catherine, some of you will know, who does lots of walking around this area. So we've done them a lot during, especially as part of the festivals over the years. And that, bringing things up to date, this is one, we did a Kirkby project around the Kirkby Loco sheds last year. We're based at Kirkby Heritage Centre, and this is typical, shows you where we do these walks. This is one in Kirkby Portland Park, or the Quarries, what they call it. A lot of old railways there. And we're basically stopping there at vantage points and showing people how the scene used to be in the 1950s and 1960s before the closures. So that's me showing this now. So the object of the digital trails was to take this from this sort of thing there, to put it digital so people can go around and get the information on mobile phones. So again, this is one of the Kirkby ones we did last year. This is the bottom of Church Hill at Kirkby. It was the site of one of the stations on the Great Central main line, Kirkby Benting, which closed 1963, and the line through there as a main line shut in September 66. And this is typical here of, you get the literary links locally. You all know who that is, I think, at St Pancras Station, John Betjeman. And he wrote his poem there, the one he described this area of Kirkby and Ashfield in the poem Great Central Railway, Sheffield, Victoria to Banbury. Unmitigated England came swinging down the line. That day the February sun did crisp and crystal shine. Dark red at Kirkby Bentinck stood, a steeply gabled farm, mid ash trees and a sycamore in charismatic calm, a village street, a manor house, a church, then tally-ho, we pounded through a housing scheme with Telemaster Row. Well, the manor house there were lost in 1969. That was demolished, unfortunately. The church is still there, St Wilfrid's, but that was described as John Betjeman travelling through there on the train in the early 1960s. Now, going back to Eastwood, this is the information sheets they used to give out at the museum in Durban House when I was there 20 years ago now as a heritage assistant. And there was still, this is the one for what became the Blue Line Trail, as you can see there in the town eventually. But they used to give these out, and these was dated, as I recall, from about 1981. And they were still giving those out in around 2005, because they still had the ones northeast of the country of my heart still showed the pit open, which closed, Moor Green Colliery closed 1985. So things didn't move on. There was still a number of these information sheets, which I've still got, which they was giving out in the early part of the 21st century. And then it became the Blue Line Trail, as some of you remember. That was done, and then these leaflets came out with a painted the Blue Line Trail, which picked in all the Lawrence houses around the town and the Durban House Heritage Centre and the museum. So again, you're all talking, you know, the paper things, what you give to people, you walk around, get information as you go around on the old way of information books, guides and sheets like this. And then we've talked about moving to this sort of thing now, you know, that things has moved on digitally wise, and we've all got, most of us got iPads and iPhones and mobile phones. So that was the idea we initially talked about taking things digital from that old method. And the real thing that gave it the catalyst, should I say, that gave it a shove was the coronavirus pandemic. This is the Ollies up in Eastwood when the pandemic broke 3 years ago now. They put these signs up everywhere. And eventually, after we'd had the first lockdown and we could meet up again, myself and Paul had a meeting between ourselves, and then suddenly realised that this was a silver lining in the black cloud, because people were suddenly having to engage in their own locality. And that really gave us the initiative to start thinking about these landscape trails, these digital trails. So again, Durban House, I started going round in between these lockdowns when we could go out again. Even though I'd photographed them loads and loads of times, I started looking at various trails we could do. Then there's Moor Green Tip there, as you all know, which is an artificial nice green hill there, but underneath that is all pit muck. So again, most of this this initiative in former coal mining regions, it's what we call a black to green initiative, really. So we're coming from industrial to the post-industrial heritage, and then engaging the literary links and the cultural links in with that. So that's sort of the idea, what's engaging the My Trails, as we call them. And this is what I did during that first lockdown. Where I came from, of course, it's just got Lawrence links as well up at Annesley. This is the colliery village where I used to live, where my roots come from. So this is the village where I used to live, Byron Road on that one there. This is Moseley Road. And I just simply looked at a number of points where you could go. One's the colliery site, sorry, two's the colliery site, one's the memorial, 3, the bridge where the coal used to come out, 4, the colliery village, 5, the site of the old school, 6, the church, 7, the institute. So I put them together, and you can see them on a small clip I did, which is, I think, as I remember, on YouTube. So I did sort of gather some heritage photos along with what it looks like nowadays, and put them together and as an idea what we could do for one of these trails, quick, nice. And you can still walk, you know, the idea you walk round from this is all housing now on the pit site. You can still walk through there, back up this way, down the roads here, the pit village, up the school hill, the site, from the church, and then round this way. So they're normally circular tours, which you can do most places. So initially we called them long wall landscape and legacies. The long wall bit is from coal mining, the coal faces, which were long wall faces. So initially we looked at a number of these, including the Silver Hill site, which is the highest point in Nottinghamshire, which has got a statue of a deputy testing for gas. And initially we tried for funding from the Arts Council. This would be 2 years ago. And unfortunately, that wasn't forthcoming. And thankfully, the D.H. Lawrence Society gave us the initial funding to do the Brinsley one. So that's what we started with. Since that time, we've become engaged with the minor to major project, which is a Notts County Council one, looking in the old Sherwood Forest catchment area. And they funded another one for us to do one at Paul's home community and village at Blidworth, which we're currently working on at the moment. And there's a possibility of some more we might be doing at Bestwood and Newstead and various other coal mining communities in the Sherwood Forest catchment area. So again, going back, this is the one what they gave out at the museum. I believe they've still got these, and you've got similar things with your vantage points here, starting up in Eastwood, going down Mansfield Road up to the Headstocks here. So eventually we concentrated, we thought we'd do this one on the colliery site there, the Brinsley Headstocks site, because it was a nice circular walk, thing you could do at lunch if you had a break or, you know, a short time. It's pretty flat. And it's also got 2 eating establishments, as you've got Brinsley Lodge sort of down there and the Headstocks Cafe on the corner there. So you got, you know, it's now a nature site. It had got the industrial links, and of course it had also got the literary links with the older chrysanthemums. So this is how we developed this round initially an old, I think it was 1901 OS map. We initially walked that, which Paul will get onto when he does his part of the talk. Identified where we thought the various sites where people could stop and plan the route. And then the second bit was starting really gathering archive footage, archive photographs together and documents, and planning the actual walk, and then actually doing some filming and then actually trialing it, which Paul will tell you about that in his part of the talk. So here's the Headstocks there at Brinsley, the ones that's currently fenced off, as you can see there, because apparently there's some structural issue with them. And this is how it used to be. So this is at the time there, going back to the 60s, of course. These were dismantled in 1970, taken up to the Lound Ore Mining Museum, which was up in North Notts near Retford. And when that closed in 1989, they came back on site in Brinsley in 1991. But the picture on the right is how there was, the site was there in the mid-late 1960s. So it was still used for access and what we call a second means of egress or escape from the other local pits. And after Underwood up the road connected with Jacksdale at Pye Hill, this was no longer needed, and that's when it was closed in 1970. Of course, this is the, it would be very much like this, you can see on the right, when they filmed Sons and Lovers in 1960. Of course, Lawrence's dad was the butty there, so we had to include him as part of the guided digital tour and that. So we talked very much about Arthur Lawrence and the significance of him being a butty at Brinsley. And of course, the mining part of it, which comes in, this is one of the Reverend Cobb photographs. It's date from around sort of 1912, 1913. That's a chap undercutting the coal, or handholing as they call it locally. So yes, we've got plenty of the Reverend Cobb photos, which give us an idea of what coal mining was like there at the time Lawrence was writing Sons and Lovers. Malcolm might identify himself there. This is Vine Cottage when we did a Odour of Chrysanthemums Day, probably going back about 8 years now, or nearly 8 years. And you'll be surprised there now, when I looked at these photos the other day, how much the trees have grown. You can't hardly see the cottage now. So they have grown immensely around there in the last 8 years, 7 or 8 years. But this is Vine Cottage, or Aunt Polly's as they call it, at the back. And that was the setting for Odour of Chrysanthemums. So again, that was in Lawrence's short story, which starts off here. And this is one of the filming we did, which Paul will get onto, where I talked in local dialect describing the start of the short story about the number 4 engine coming down from Underwood, Selston pit with the wagons and that, which is the start of the old chrysanthemums. And this is the old railway track bed. So it looks a nice path now, and part of the nature reserve there. But of course, you go back in history, this is part of the Barber Walker Railway, which connected up all its pits and that, right from Langley Mill at one end where the sidings were, and originally the Cromford Canal before the railways, and right through via High Park and Watnell to the other side near Kimberley and Watnell, where it joined up again with the Middle and the Great Northern lines. But this is a part of the line that went via Brinsley and up towards Underwood Pit, which was called Selston Colliery. And that's a picture of the Barber Walker Railway. This is on the bend, going back to the 1950s, this between Watnell Colliery and High Park. So you're not very far from Bovale Priory, that photograph there. See the little, if you ever turn into Bovale Priory, when you come off the lane and you're going down towards the Priory, you go over a bit of what you think is a footpath or a bit of a driveway. Well, that's the track bed of the railway there. And this was a colliery railway, so it was connecting all its coal mines up to take coal down to the sidings at either end to be dispatched all over the country. That's a map of it. So the bit I showed you is just this north here of Brinsley, where it says Wharf and that, Brinsley Wharf, that's a bit of the footpath there. And then this is the one where it came through Langley Mill at this end, via Moor Green, Wharf up to Dovecot Road, High Park, Watnell Colliery, which was used to do it where the side of the M1 and the chimneys used to be. And then it connected again with the Midland and Great Northern lines near Nuttall. So that was the Barber Walker Colliery Railway. And of course, it's a nice walk. This is the footpath. You see the headstocks there. And this is part of the circular walk when you've come up from the car park end round here, the Headstocks pubs round there, and walk back down the road. So it's a nice little walk, and it had got everything we needed with the industrial link, the railway link, the literary link, and it had got some eating establishments. So it ticked everything what we needed. Well, there's your signs in Brinsley now. You come in with your mining heritage, and that's Paul there when we did one of the filmings there at the Brinsley Brook, which was interesting because when we filmed that about a year ago, when we first went round, the water were absolutely pouring out here. When we went in July, it had dried up. And this is the Headstocks, which I was telling Alan about last night. So this is the cafe where these started doing evening events and that. That's where myself and Claire, about a month ago, having a meal there. So we can get a bite to eat or coffees or what have you. So that fitted the needs, so we can actually do the walk and then go for a coffee or some lunch or whatever if need be. So this is the My Trails, what we developed then. So again, the Brinsley one you can see there is the first one trail, which is on the left there. This is where you can, we advise, which Paul will talk about if groups want to create a trail. Educational trails we've looked at through the Steaming Back to Kirkby project. So again, this is for schools, particularly Key Stage 2, Key Stage 3, the guided trails, which Paul will mention about there. So that's me done with my bit. If you want to hand over, I'll back this screen sharing bit and I'll hand over to Paul now.
Okay, okay.
Right, if I can. Right, share. I think that's it. Right, stop share there, isn't it? That's it. Right. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, okay. I'll give it a go then. See if I can. Yeah. Let's have a look. Now then, I think it's that one. Let's have a look.
Screen share, the green one, it should be at bottom, Paul.
Yeah, it's not that. I'm trying to share the actual actual thing there. Let me just trying to see where the slide deck is. Right, okay, desktop 2, I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Okay, let's give that a go. Okay, share screen. All right.
We're not on yet.
I'm clicking share, it's not doing very much.
Are you on the green one in the middle? The share
Yeah,
screen
I'm clicking. I'm clicking that, and it's coming up with another box. When I'm doing it, it's hang on a minute. There we go. Oh, hang on. It's all right. It's all right. I've got a little warning said. It's just let me. I just need to allow my computer to share. It's all locked down, you see, because it's all the government stuff I do. So let me just do that. It should allow me to do that.
You've got some antivirus Reds under the bed software, have you?
Oh, I've got all of that. Yeah. Let me just give this a no go. Right. So if we share, that's my desktop. Looks like it's going to do it this time. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we are.
Are we there? Are we there? Right. Okay. What do we want to do? Do we want to do that? No, let's just get on with it. Right. Okay. Let's just put this in a slideshow mode. There we go. So have you got that full screen now?
I've got it, Brian. Got the job ball. It's showing.
Should they be making a Brinsley circular?
No.
Okay. So let me just escape. Okay. Have you got it? Hang on a minute.
I've got.
Can you see it? Can you see it now?
I've got the Slack thing. Well, it looks of it. You've the Slack job.
Oh, it's the wrong. You see, that's yeah. Hang on a minute. It's the wrong. That's the wrong screen. I'm trying to tell it to do this screen. Screen 2. Oh, there we go. Right, there we go. Try that one. Should have it now.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, we're on.
Brilliant. I've got so many screens running. That's a problem, you see. So here we go. Right. So making a Brinsley circular. So the kind of relationship with the cultural trails kind of started in 2010. And I did a trail with Renaissance East Midlands. So I was doing some freelance work, and I developed the Blue Line Trail for a project called Empedia. And then around about 2012, I set up my own company, and since then I've been involved in various Lawrence-related projects. First one that you can see down here, this is the history of coal in 10 objects, and we did a movie there, film called Snapped In, which was filmed at the D.H. Lawrence Birthplace Museum. Made that with David. That was our first kind of big project together. And the two other projects you can see here is the Dawn of the Unread, which is a Guardian award-winning digital comic, which also features D.H. Lawrence as the zombie hunter there. That was done by Hunt Emerson and Kevin Jackson. And that was a collaboration with James Walker, who is obviously involved in lots of Lawrence projects, including the Memory Theatre, which is the other project here, which is basically a cabinet of curiosities that contains lots of objects and stories, all related to kind of new interpretations, I guess, of D.H. Lawrence's work. So I've kind of been, dipped in and out of D.H. Lawrence's life over the years. Worked with the heritage centres on and off, and obviously helped David with a number of public events out there. And the interesting thing was, it started, the very first trail I did was the Empedia Cultural Trail, which was the Blue Line Trail. But then in 2002, that trail went offline permanently. And even if you use the Internet Archive to try and recover it, it won't work because of the way that the application was coded. So all of those organizations that we dealt with at that time, basically all of their content is no longer available. So what David and I wanted to do is really to have a look at a digital platform, make something a bit more resilient, something that would last the test of time, if you like, even if they switch it off. So one of the things, obviously, that has been kind of very dominant in our lives over the past couple of years has been COVID-19 thing. And it is one of these kind of big macro events that impacts everything that we do. You know, impacts our personal lives, impacts the way that we work. And as David kind of alluded to earlier, there was a kind of renaissance in outdoor leisure activities, UK based. So, you know, I'm based obviously next door to Sherwood Forest, so every day I'll go and walk around the forest. That's something that I never did before the pandemic. So kind of interesting that you get in touch with the stuff that is around you, and that's what we were seeing, and that is the impression that we're getting from other people as well. So people that I work with online, for example, they were experiencing the same in you know, kind of other areas of the UK. The thing that we also found, we're now adopters of the technology. We're using a Zoom call here, so we found that it accelerated the use of mobile technology and computer technology. And the other thing that that we saw was the re-emergence of contactless QR codes. So you scan, you know, when you're going into a venue, you could scan a QR code. You don't actually touch anything. You just use your phone and scan it. And I've done quite a lot of work with those around about 2012, and thought they'd disappeared, and they've kind of come back into vogue because they are actually quite useful. So we'll be making use of those QR codes to trigger things as you go around some of these walks. So, I mean, when I started in this sort of work, which was about 2010, which probably not a long time ago, but we've seen some massive increases in connectivity and resolution and stuff since then. You know, the devices that we were using then and the internet connections that we had then were quite poor. Now we take it for granted. We all stream movies, and you know, we use mobile phones in ways that we don't even think about. We just take it for granted. So it seemed like a really good time to maybe let's have a look at the technology again, and let's see what we can do with it now. So we've got this desire to kind of revisit the idea of a mobile-based cultural trail. And to do so, to create a platform so we could host lots of trails on the platform and give a kind of common kind of look and feel to these things, so that basically when you went into one trail, it would feel like the next one, and make it really easy. And I guess that simple approach to design is something that I've kind of got from working with the .gov websites and that kind of thing. So being accessible so that people with special needs can actually access that technology, and just making it easy to use, really. So we then started to develop this Brinsley circular trail. So in March of last year, we did a little recce, and we used an app called What 3 Words. What we used this for? This was used to mark where we were going. So we were using the GPS on it. So we'd walk to one place, click, that's where we are, and then write a few notes about that point. So we walked the route, dropping these virtual pins as we went, which records the coordinates of where you are, like on an OS map, and then basically just make a few notes about what we were seeing. And David had got a book with him. He'd got the Order of Chrysanthemums with him, and he pulled the book out when we were just on the track bed, and he just started reading, and it was just one of those moments, because it was like it was just perfect for the place that we were in, and we knew straight away that what we had to do is to get that reading in that place, so that when you're walking through with your mobile phone, you can listen to that reading in that space. And that really was we knew that we were on to the right track at that point. We knew that it felt right. So we went around the trail trying to think of other areas where bits of stories might come in, where you could tell the story and you feel the atmosphere around you. So the next couple of months, kind of between April and May, we collected lots of content, and we were thinking about the pictures that you might need, and there are all sorts of, it's such a rich area. It's unbelievable, the amount of material that we collected. And we knew we would have a problem, because we would then be in a process of having to edit it out and cherry pick. So what we then did, we allocated various stages to the trail. And this is a kind of early concept that we did. And we were kind of mapping areas out. We were collecting pictures. We were kind of sketching what it might look like. But this is like an early storyboard, if you like. And the other thing that we did, we thought about the people who might use the app. So these are the personas. They're not real people. These are actually computer generated people. They look real. So you can see here, we've got Susan, she's 31, she's a mother. You've got Lisa, she's 9, she's at a junior school. We've got a young apprentice here, Ben. We've got Maria, she's a teenager at a senior school. Patricia, she's a mother, and Nadeem, the father. We've got a retired widow here, Penny, age 65. So we're creating these people that feel real. They've got real personalities. And we were thinking, well, how would these people use the app? How would they, visit these places? Would it be different for a child? Would it be different for a teacher? Would it be different for an undergraduate or Stan, who is registered disabled? How would it be different for these different people? So what we wanted to do is to create a trail that would be inclusive and somehow, encompass all of them. So this, so from May to June, we then started building things. And you can see, I was actually working in a building site at that time. So there's lots of building going on, and I was building the basic framework for the trail. So a lot of programming and just getting things lined up, really ready for the content to go into the trail. So in July, as David mentioned, we went back to the trail. We went back to the on-site, and we started to shoot the video for some of the trail readings. Now, fortunately, I'd shot the brook back in the spring, so we did have some water. But when we went back in July, that spring was completely dry. But it was alive. You can see it's very green. So we went and we did the actual shoot for the readings. So one of the other things that we thought about after that, as we kind of got into, we were starting to put the trail together now, and we were coming close to the festival, DH Lawrence Festival, and that's where we're going to debut it. So in August, we started to edit the content, and we started to address issues around how users would use the trail. And it's very different when you are using a mobile phone and you're following a trail. If you're in a busy space or you're walking along a place where there's traffic, you don't want the phone to distract you. So we had to be very careful about the kind of content that you give people when they were in a place where there's traffic. So you couldn't distract them with video, for example. That would be really wrong. So we were looking at the context where people were on the trail. And there are certain places where you could reflect, where you're away from traffic. So right up at the headstocks, for example, you've got these massive headstocks. You've got all this space around you. So we knew that in that space, we could spend a long time. We could play the video, we could play music, we could do the readings. So we just had to be a bit careful of how we, use the content as you went around the trail. So we revised the route a little bit and made some edits to the content. And then in September, we then did a run through with the video content itself and also the interactive maps. And then the other thing that we started to work on was the turn-by-turn navigation. So as well as the content, so as well as a reading, which may be an excerpt from Odor of Chrysanthemums, you may also need some information which says, okay, you are now standing in this space. And in order to get to the next point, you're going to have to walk across a field and over a stile or something like that. So we then had to introduce, we walked the trail again to get the turn-by-turn navigation. So giving people directions of where to go so they wouldn't get lost. So as we got towards September, we started to produce this storyboard. And this is basically an overview of the entire trail. So it kind of starts out with a map, and it's got basically all the different locations. And what I'll do is I'll just step through some of these. So when you start the trail, you basically get this is kind of simulating a phone now. So basically you get the a kind of picture here of the location, a very short description. So landscape of coal and rails, a short 40-minute historic walk through DH Lawrence country. So it's really, really punchy, very, very short. People know how long it's going to take. And it's just, you've got to get it really simple. So what we then do, you then get the map. And as David mentioned, we chose a 1901 map. because that's exactly where we wanted people's heads to be. We wanted them to think about, you know, that industrial landscape. It's very, very countrified now, but at the time, you can see with the number of rails, you know, it is very highly industrialized. So if we just go through that, if we scroll on, you've got then the location points here. Now on your phone, you'll use your thumb to activate these. So you can see, you can, you know, jump along. You can say, okay, I start at the car park, then I go to Vine Cottage, then railway track bed, then Brinsley Brook. Or you could use the map. You can use the points on the map or the points on the, using your thumb on the kind of scroll bit there. And because, you know, we're all aware of DX we know where Brinsley Headstocks is. There are people that don't know, and there are people that may need to get directions to the trail. So at the bottom there, we've got then links to Google Maps and What 3 Words. So those two applications will get you to that location. So we built that into the trail. So on the morning when we tried it, I basically went through this link here on the Google map. It took me to the trail, and then straight away, I was then able to go through the trail and step through all the different points. And that's what we did on the day when we showed it. So I'll just step through some of the points that we've got. So you start off in the car park there, and you then get up to Vine Cottage. So this is all the key points in the trail. You then got the railway track bed, and we've got a picture there from the 1960s. So you can see there's Vine Cottage, all kind of nice white stucco. And then the railway line running straight past it. So it's not got that bend in it that it currently has. Then up to Brinsley Brook, and then up the steps there to the tree carving, which again, there's a piece on the app there. We'll have a look at that in a moment. Then the headstocks, that's kind of the cherry on the top, really. There's so many things that you can do with the headstocks, so many readings, so many images. There's the music, you know, it's a place where lots of things can happen. So it's a very, very busy part of the trail. This is one of the points where we try and help people, you know, get across the field with the cows in it. So, you know, we're showing people how to get across the public footpath. So it is that kind of turn by turn direction. And then also we've got the viewpoint there out to the kind of coalfield of Eastwood there. So you get Southston and Underwood, etc. So you can view that on the horizon. And we're marking out the various landmarks that you can see on that horizon. And we also include a map on the trail as well. And then, of course, we've got the Headstocks tea room. So when you've done your walk, you know, you're about 35 minutes in now. So have a cup of tea there, have a bit of a rest. And from there, you can actually carry on down to the more green site. So you've got the pit tip there, which looks always looks beautiful. And we've got some archive material as well, which actually shows that tip from the very same viewpoint. And it's the 8mm film of a colliery marketing band. So that's quite interesting. And then back to the Brinsley Lodge Inn. And then that brings you then back to the car park. So again, it's a very, very simple 40-minute circular trail. And that's what we wanted to do there. What I'm going to do now is just going to break out of this. And I just want to just show you the app itself. So you can see this is the Brinsley Headstock. So this is what you would see on your phone. So you've got the image at the top. You've got the numbered point here. You can see we've got a bit of video here. I'm not sure if this will play. If we can give it a go, but it might not. It might not. But let's give it a go. Okay, did you get that, David? Is that working? I think you're on mute, David.
Yeah, it didn't. Well, I couldn't hear the sound on it, Paul.
That's right. That's what I thought it would do. I can't do it without messing around. But anyway, so you can see that if I just walk through these, well, in actual fact, what I can also do, I can actually provide a transcript, because all the video on here has a transcript. And if I just play that again, so what we've actually got as well, we've actually got subtitles. So if you're hard of hearing, you can read the subtitles. You can also read the transcripts of any video. We also got a clip in there from the Eastwood Colliery Male Voice Choir. That's really impressive when you play it up on that field. We've got various other things. So there's kind of poster art there from Sons and Lovers, and some of the Reverend Cobb imagery as well, and some from the 1970s as well from Ron Storer. So it's really rich. So you know, and you can see at the bottom here we've got then the buttons, so we can just click then to the next point in the trail. So basically, it's really simple. Scroll down, click next button, that takes you to the next spot. So it's very, very easy to navigate. So, you know, it's that kind of ease of use. On the More Green Tip one, this is quite interesting, because we've actually got a clip here from Dawn of the Unread. And this is the cartoon version of D.H. Lawrence. Of course, this goes back to the black to green theme, you know, where Lawrence was horrified that the machine was destroying his beloved green landscape. And I guess he'd be really surprised to see that now, you know, because in just those few short years, it's actually gone back to nature. So all of these pit sites, you know, that were, you know, very, very black are now going to green. So that's one of the kind of themes that we pick up there. And you can see we've got the 8mm film there of the people as they walk through. You won't hear them, but I can actually just show the blend from the old to the new. So again, it's from 1978, and you've got the carnival marching band there. So you can see in the background, look at the tip there. You know, if you compare that with the green that we've got there, that's as it looked in 78. And we've got some historic photographs as well, of diggers and stuff like that. And again, a reading to close the thing off with Ode to Green Hill. And again, we've got a transcript, so you can actually read that, or you can just listen to that as you kind of contemplate. So that's pretty much the trail as it appears on a mobile phone. I'll just go back into the slideshow here. So I'll just step through. Whoop, there we go. So in September, we did some last-minute improvements to the images and the audio and the video. And then we did the public demonstration for the festival in 2022. And we used an iPad for the playback. So it looks slightly different on the different devices. So it will always scale for the screen you're viewing it on. So if you view it on a desktop machine on your PC, you'll get the full screen. So you get the big full screen, beautiful images. If you view it on an iPad, then it adjusts to that and gives you a really good vision. And then if you do it on your mobile phone, it will then scale to whatever phone you're using. That's the kind of trick, really, getting it so it works on all the devices. So no matter what device you use, you get the kind of optimum experience. So that is really my trail. So we've, as David said, we've got the website up and running there. And coming up, we're working on several trails. We're just about to launch a junior trail for Kirkby and Ashfield, and that's entitled, Why Is It Called Station Street? So it's a very simple, there's 6 stages in the trail, and it's designed for school children. So basically they'll be able to kind of explore their local environment, and it will kind of reveal to them why it's called Station Street. I know it's very obvious, but it's quite playful. And the idea of the junior trail, again, if you think back to those personas I showed you earlier, it's very different to an adult trail. So there's a kind of element that will appeal to the teachers because they can guide it. So activities at the end, but also the kids can drive it themselves on their own devices because you all know how savvy they are. And we're also looking at a trail for the Heritage Centre at Plesley Colliery, and that'll be interesting because it includes some of the exhibits inside the building. So there'll be the possibility of doing interpretation on there. So that might include video or, you know, various other things. And I think that one thing that we'd like to do maybe is have a look at that blue line trail again. And what that would allow us to do is actually link up the Brinsley circular trail with another trail. So you do one, and if you're feeling very energetic or you're there for the day, you could then maybe stop off at the, you know, at the cafe, have a little rest there, then link to the blue line trail and do that as well. So we're thinking of the idea of how you link these trails together. So these little trails that are easy, very manageable. But you know, if you're athletic, you might want to try a couple of them. And then I was working with one of the kind of creative guys I work with, and we were talking about maps. And we know that authors have these fictional topographies. So as well as a physical trail, so the Brinsley Trail, we know that these are real places that we walk around, but often authors have these fictional places that they invent. We know that, for example, you know, you've got D.H. Lawrence, who would use Bestwood as a kind of proxy for Eastwood. So these are kind of imaginary spaces. And, you know, the other Nottingham author, Alan Sillitoe, he uses maps, you know, which are, they're kind of based on real places, but they're not. So they are these other kind of topographies. So we're thinking maybe you could have in there some fictional trails that are metaphysical as opposed to physical. Not sure how that will work, but it's just one of those experiments. And it's an interesting kind of literary angle that we'd like to take. So if I just move on to the final slide. So if you want to have a go with the Brinsley Trail, you can find that on mytrail.co.uk. You can also find some Lawrence links on my website there as well. Plenty of Lawrence projects. But the thing about MyTrail is to try it on your different devices and, you know, give us feedback. And if you have chance to visit the location, then please do. And we'll be adding more locations throughout this year. That's what we intend to do. So we're pretty busy, aren't we, David? Right, there we go. Shops, yeah, there we go.
Right, that's us done, Alan.
It
Ready for
is.
question and answer.